Hello, everyone, and welcome to your weekly wreckage on Damage Check. I am your host, Eric, aka as Fjord. Joining me today, as always, is the man who is crazy enough to try to win with every single League of Legends champion in the arena mode, my good friend, HP, aka Heretic Plays. HP, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, brother. I missed you.
I missed you. How's the arena challenge going anyways? They took away the game mode, right?
They did take away the game mode. It is coming back with a vengeance before June, and probably with all these new items and all this stuff too. So it's going to be pretty fun, but they're bringing it back as 8 teams of 4 or teams of 2 instead of 4 teams of 2. So it's going to be 2v2v2v2v2v2v2.
Do you feel like that changes things up a lot?
Yes, it's going to make the challenge much harder because I have to beat 7 teams now instead of 3. So
instead of 3, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a lot harder. I still have some backlogged that I'll still be uploading occasionally, but speaking of League, we can go a little bit into what we've been playing because I just want to get this off my chest. New League, fantastic. I'm obsessed.
Interesting. I've heard now 2 people say incredible and 2 people say they've destroyed the game. What the fuck?
No, dude, in my opinion, your role now feels like your role. It feels like old League. Because you know how, okay, so you've been playing a long time, right? 10 years or so, probably?
Basically since the beginning.
Okay, so same.
Essentially since beta.
So the first like 8 to 10 seasons felt really good. I mean, as good as, some hit or miss, but mostly tanks felt like tanks. XYZ felt like XYZ. And so then there was like this huge shift where you could just build tank on everybody, and it was just tank meta. And tank meta was annoying.
Can I just say, dude, fucking Tank Echo was some of the most fun I've ever had in my life, though.
It's actually kind of back. I feel
really?
because I feel like with the item changes now, anybody who kind of scales off of certain things can kind of build that stuff too. Like AP Jax right now is an assassin, and he's probably 100% ban rate for me because I just faced him in mid lane. Maybe if I was playing Fizz because I could counter him, or Ari, whatever. But if AP Jax is an assassin now, and but either way, the items make the game feel great. I feel like you can really have some versatility in your builds, and I don't know, I like it. I'm really enjoying it.
Okay, I actually did end up playing 2 games last night.
I saw you.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. I did my typical thing where I play at the beginning of every league season. I play like 2 or 3 games. And I'm like, that's enough league for the quarter. I'm good. That
is, as much as I love playing ARAM with the boys and I want to rank up this season, I totally understand that sentiment.
Yeah. It's hard for me to get into league. Like I used to go through like larger league patches where I would like play for 2 months, off for like maybe 2-3 months, play for 2 months, off for 2 or 3 months, and so on and so forth. Now it's like play for 2 days, off for 3 months, play for 2 days, off for 3 months.
There you go. I think that's probably a healthier relationship, unless you're just kind of playing ARAM with the boys, because that's what we do.
Yeah. But I mean, from what I played, it was fairly fun. I did feel like things did feel more balanced than they probably felt in a really long time. I feel like what really kind of drove me away from League was like these champions are just getting insane. You used to have champions that were like their whole thing is like they've got like a CC and maybe like another CC. They had like 2 things going. Now the new champions are like, he's got CC, he's got a taunt, he's got a slide, he can do a dash. He's also got a burst damage
and a pullback,
damage pen, true damage, pullback. Yeah. Also, he can revive your allies. Also, he can.
No, I feel that. I mean, I genuinely feel like Cassante needs to be deleted from the game. I feel like that guy can do too much. You build him straight tank, and he can go assassin mode. And then he also has a knockback, a pushback, a knock up, and a pull towards, and a go through a wall. Like, I just don't understand that champion.
It's like, remember when champions had one of those things?
Right. I agree with that. I would agree with that. I do think that they are pushing the stats, if not changing champions, to somewhat match that output a little bit for the most part. Okay. But there are some dead champions for sure. I wouldn't say dead, but I mean J4, he's one of those champions that's really good early game, and then he just falls off if you go like Bruiser Assassin build, or if you go Bruiser Assassin build can always just keep one-shotting, but Bruiser is going to fall off late game just like Vi used to do. And J4 has literally been unchanged since season 1. Literally unchanged.
Yep. Yep. I'll probably end up playing a few more games with the boys, but we'll see. You know, my gaming time, you know, just keeps on getting eaten up, gobbled up by all these other games.
Yeah.
Before we get too far into what we've been playing, though, before I guess we talk about what I've been playing as well, I do want to introduce you to something I am calling currently Aberration Smarts.
Okay.
I'll probably change the name because that's kind of what I just came up with maybe about 5 minutes before we started this. But I was thinking about something to give you a little insight. I was thinking about something over the weekend or leading into the weekend, I should say. We're in the weekend right now. And I was like, how many more Final Fantasies am I going to get to play in my life? And I did kind of the math, and roughly, at least mainline titles, I'm guessing I'll probably get to Final Fantasy like 23 to 24.
That is some interesting math that you've done there, my friend.
So Final Fantasy 23 or 24 is probably where I'm going to end up, depending on if dev cycles keep on getting longer. Maybe not. We'll see how that goes. But it did make me think of a fun little thing that we could do, and I'm going to keep track of this. I've actually got my notes up right now to do it. I want you to tell me between Final Fantasy 17, 18, 19, and 20, which one do you think is going to be better? Just looking into the future, knowing nothing about them, what do you think is going to be better?
What? Is that something I can answer?
Just think about it. Think about it with whatever knowledge, whatever reason.
It's so small. Whatever reason you can. It is the most minimal you could possibly have.
So just use what you got.
You said 18, 19, or 20?
17, 18, 19, or 20. So you got 4 options. Which one do you think is going to be the better game? You know, objectively, like review score wise, I guess. You know, not necessarily.
To celebrate the first game that's probably ever hit 20 besides Mario Party, I would say 20.
20? Okay.
Because 17, 18, and 19, you know what those are gonna be MMO-esque type things. 20 is gonna be like, we're going back to the roots, and they're gonna have it to where you go, it's old school turn-based, but it's gonna be like this super modernized version of it, right? And then it's gonna go into like some like something different, like kind of like Sea of Stars, where you are fighting in the world, but it's turn-based. I think it's going to be something like that, where it's not going to bring you into a battle screen anymore. It's going to be like real-time fighting, but turn-based. So you're going to go up and actually do your combo, which has that been done before, by the way, in a turn-based game, where you go up and actually hit buttons and do a combo like a fighter, and then come back and it's their turn now? Because that would be fun.
I think so, actually. I'm blanking on the title that did it. I want to say it was one of the Tales games. Tales of Berseria maybe did something like that, where it kind of turned into a fighter in a way. But I guess it wasn't 100% turn-based to start with. So I guess maybe not. Maybe from that very distinct, like from turn-based into like doing a combo. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the closest thing you would have would be something similar like the Sea of Stars thing, where you can like continue it. But even then, it's like you can only continue it once unless you're using like Moonerang or something.
So I have a question. So where is this going?
I'm keeping a note. So I have an app that I use called Obsidian, or an application, I should say, called Obsidian, and I call it my second brain. I've got notes in here that all link together, and so this is a note that I'm going to link in to Damage Check. So when Final Fantasy 20 comes out in like 25 years. We'll be able to go back and say,
I'll be like, Ford, you remember when I said that I was right?
You fucking nailed it. But now here's the other side. Which one do you think is going to be the worst? Which one do you think people are going to dislike?
17.
Ooh, interesting.
The next one is
why?
Because the next one is not going to be nearly as hot as this last one. Because this last one apparently popped off. This next one's got to flop. We gotta have a flop. You're releasing 16, which is supposedly really good, into the double back-to-back Final Fantasy VII remakes or whatever. No way.
No way. All right. That's solid reasoning, honestly, because especially if they kind of continue down the path they started with, kind of the more action combat. Highly contested thing. Old school Final Fantasy fans are like, "Where's my turn-based?" And then new school Final Fantasy fans are like, "This is amazing. I love this. Thank you."
Right.
And so I think you might be right. 17 might be a boiling point. I'm gonna say that I think 19 will be the best.
And reasoning?
My reasoning is I think that 19 is going to essentially be, all right, guys, we know we're going to change up the game with 20. 20 is going to be like a brand new, like we're going to like really kind of change things up, or maybe it'll be like a go back to roots. But I think that 18 is going to be like, oh, this had some cool ideas. And then 19 is going to take those cool ideas and like really execute on them. So I think 19 is going to be able to execute on the ideas that 18 ends up bringing up.
Okay.
And so that's why I think people are going to say 19 is going to end up being the best, because it's going to be an execution factor, not necessarily a novelty factor, but people are going to be like, oh man, they executed the hell out of this thing.
So then that takes me to the other part then. What I think it is it's going to be 19 is going to change the game, and then 20 it's going to be perfected.
Oh, okay. So you
flipping the script on you.
You think you're going to get into it early? Okay. So
that's an interesting question. I like that. That's ambitious as hell. I love this question.
So I'm actually going to say the vice versa. I think 20 will end up being the worst.
Okay.
Because I think what's going to end up happening is, I think you're right, where they're going to be like, we're going to go back to basics, or we're going to change up the game essentially from what we've been for the past like 4 or 5 games. And people are not going to like that. They're not going to like that at all. So, all right, cool. Well, this is now locked in. It is now in the vault, the Obsidian vault.
I mean, think about it too, though. The name, like, because the name is going to be FFXX, right? Because
damn, that's going to be so hot, dude. Damn, that's going to be so hot.
FFXX, like, that's sick.
That is sick as hell. You're right. Honestly, and it'll just get good reviews for that. Like, guys, the game's kind of ass, but it's called FFXX. Hot.
You know what?
Gotta give him a 10. Gotta give him that 10 out of 10.
I could be right there, but also that could just be the MMO, right? Because I mean, a new MMO called FFXX, like that. I mean,
damn. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Holy. This is fun. This is a lot.
That is. I love this. This is a little brainstorming for the future. I love that.
Square, call us. We got ideas. We already got ideas for a game.
Marketing is done for you.
Marketing's done. FFXX over. You've already made $1 bajillion. Pay us.
There we go.
And that's all I have for Operation Smarts, the name of which I will most likely change. Now we can get back into what we've been playing, because I got a good one. I got one that I really want to talk about. So last time I talked to you guys, I said, oh yeah, I'm trying to get through Sea of Stars. You know, it's been pretty good. Like my opinion was that it was decent and was hitting the marks. But let me tell you, man, it's been hitting. I reached a point in the game where I feel like it is the turning point where the game really takes off. And I have some thoughts to say about it. But first, I want to get your thoughts on Sea of Stars. Since you're earlier on in it, I kind of want to hear from you and how you've been streaming it and how things have been going with that.
To be honest, I think that it's where it needs to be. And okay, so look, let me compare it to other games, right? In different spaces. So you got games like, okay, for example, Super Mario World takes it's still like incredible. People are still making dude, hang on, this is gonna bother me. I have you layered over me, or me layered over you on this one. There we go. That was gonna bother me.
Visual.
Yeah, that was gonna bother me.
I like. Hold on, this is a new scene. I like this. This is cool.
Yeah. So whenever you're talking, I have the flip flop. So yeah.
Oh, all right, cool.
So I'm trying to live switch too, so it's tough. But yeah, we're getting into it. So basically, like Mario World is kind of the exception because it's just such a timeless game, and Mario, not RPG, 64. Like these are games that will continue to be played for the next few generations, if not forever. They're just so timeless classics. Like now, some old school games kind of fall to the wayside. Like back in the day, we thought 007 GoldenEye was so good as a shooter. Now, if you compare it to other shooters, it sucks. Mario World still stands the test of time to other 2D games. And same with Mario 64 with 3D games. And so I think some games will stand and some games don't. And then the games, like, for example, a new 2D game, let's give an example, Celeste, is very good. They did such an amazing job at the 2D genre. Now, there are some 2Ds that aren't that good that are made recently. I think that Sea of Stars takes an old concept and refreshes it and revitalizes it to a place where I personally think that the genre needed to be. Because think about this, HP alone, I do not play single player games that often, and I've been trying to recently, and this is how I see it. I played Mario RPG. Granted, it was a lot out of nostalgia, but you got to think, by the end of it, I was getting a little bored. Because of just the nature of me. I don't really care for turn-based as much as I used to when I was a kid, and I don't like single players as much. But it was nostalgia and charm that kept me going through the whole game. Okay, move on to Sea of Stars. You would think a back-to-back single player game and back-to-back turn-based RPG that I would just be like burnt out. I'm not. I wanted so badly to turn Sea of Stars on off stream, but I want to share it with everybody. I might have to do a little bit off stream because I do want to beat it on stream, but we got Prince of Persia coming out, and that's going to take a lot of my time next week.
Yeah, Prince of Persia is definitely, especially with the previews, it's looking very hot.
But I don't want to rush these games. I mean, Sea of Stars, I'm really enjoying it. I like doing these streams where I do like a 2-hour stream, do one boss battle per stream. I'm actually really enjoying that. But in terms of the, like, I don't know what else you wanted from it, but I'm enjoying it. I think it has such a breath of fresh air for this genre. And granted, I'm not as apt as some people might be in this genre. I didn't play it a lot as a kid. I played it more as a kid, but I played the basic ones, right? I played Pokemon, I played Mario RPG, I played Paper Mario. I dabbled in Crystal Chronicles a little bit. And I always wanted to play Chrono Trigger, but I never got around to it. So take it what you will. I didn't have a lot of these types of games around. I wish I did, but the genre just gets bored on me as an adult, but this doesn't. And that's really most I have to say about it.
And what do you think is the primary thing keeping you from getting bored? Is it that the combat is more engaging, or is it like a world thing? Like, does it, what kind of vector does it come from? Is it like a gameplay, story, presentation?
So the combat is one thing that at first I was like, I love this. I love the idea of new moves, and I know there's a ton more moves that I have yet to explore. But it's engaging where it needs to be. Like, for example, old Final Fantasies and Square Enix did it with Mario RPG, where you have the action buttons, but you don't have that in the old Final Fantasies, like where you have to actually like time it and stuff like that. When they added that in like games like Mario RPG and Paper Mario, I was obsessed. I was like, this takes the genre to a whole new level. But even then, it's still a turn-based game. You can only do so much, and then before you just kind of get bored. Sea of Stars is, I wouldn't say it's getting boring, but it gets to that point where it's the same concept. Like, I'm using the same 4 moves. Granted, it keeps it fresh by having the rotation of vulnerability and stuff like that. I absolutely love that. The locks, yes, that is genius, because it makes you kind of like think about what you're doing. Although sometimes in games like this, when I'm doing the grindy bits, I do just kind of want to turn off my brain. But this game, I feel like they don't just enemy spam. You don't have random encounters like you do in Pokemon, Tall Grass, or walking in a dungeon in Final Fantasy. You don't get or Undertale or whatever. You don't get these random encounters. You can kind of see where the enemies are and kind of take a different route. And I don't feel like it penalizes you too much, because the XP matters, but the locks matter, and a lot of things there's a lot of moving parts there that I feel like that if you skip one, the other kind of takes over, and then if you skip the other takes over. So the combat, while it can get a little stale just by the nature of turn-based RPGs, it's still working for me a little bit. It's kind of hanging on by a thread because I do get bored with that type of stuff. But I do find the story very charming. It's hard to pay attention to and stream at the same time, but the story is charming. It's pretty basic in terms of the characters, but the world is what I love. The world feels like the original Legend of Zelda world building, right? Like you have these things like this mage, this old sage is like, hey, take this, go along. And this is the same concept. Like they're setting up this like Black Clover-esque story with the world. Every time you get to a new part of the world, they're like, oh, this thing is doing this thing because of this thing. And these things started this way because of this thing. And it's been thousands of millennia that they've been doing this. So that's why XYZ does this thing. And like everything kind of just plays into itself. And that might be pretty easy to write if it's a pretty basic story. And the characters, you don't have to worry too much about the characters, because the characters, while charming, They don't have any depth.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's
but
fair.
the world, again, while not super deep in terms of like, thought provoking, it does have this whimsical charm to it. Like the sleeping dragon, a little bit of a spoiler. It's early on in the game, within the first few hours, but that sleeping dragon being kept asleep the whole time because of these wind tunnels make this music. Like that is so cute.
So cool. So
I love
cool.
that.
No, I 100% agree. I think that I agree with most all your points. And I think they're all very valid, especially towards the beginning of the game. I think towards the turning point, I do think combat starts to evolve quite a bit. Actually, maybe even a little bit before that, combat starts to evolve a little bit, especially as you get like different party members and stuff like that. And I think that does make it so that combat consistently is like adding something new to keep things interesting. And I definitely agree with the whole grinding bit. Like I haven't really felt like I've had to stop and like, oh, I gotta go kill
Exactly.
whole bunch of people to grind. Like I've just been able to go from plot beat to plot beat.
Yeah,
Kill the
and
people
that's
between,
outdated. So I'm glad that
good.
they did that, because that's an outdated concept.
Yeah, you don't need to make me grind for hours and hours in these games anymore. So let me get from plot beat to plot beat, put enough people between there to make sure I get to where I need to be, and do it that way.
Absolutely.
And then, story, I also agree. I think the world building in the beginning is phenomenal. I think they do a fantastic job of setting up this world and making it a world that, you, even if you don't like mega care about, you at least find it interesting. And I think that's something that they've done phenomenally. I'm not going to bring up any spoilers or anything like that, but I definitely, the beginning of the game is definitely like your prototypical hero's journey kind of story where like all the characters are just kind of vectors for this like epic adventure we're going on. Yeah, we're going to go beat the bad guy and do all this kind of stuff. And man, let me tell you, man, the way they turn that on its head is so freaking good, dude. It like I went from being like at like a 3 out of 5 on this game to being currently I'm a 4 out of 5, probably going to be a 5 out of 5. As long as they kind of land the plane, I think there's no doubt in my mind this is going to be a 5 out of 5 amazing for me. I do wish that they got to that point quicker. I have a feeling there are many people who play this game and they play the first few hours and they go, I get it. And then they probably never come back. They probably
I'm so interested to see this change.
But then I feel like once you get to the change, that's when you're like, okay, we're in this, like, oh, there is like a story and there is like a lot of interesting stuff going on here. That's not just the prototypical hero's journey. And I think that they handle that absolutely phenomenally.
How many more bosses or sections do you think I'll need to get to before I get there? You just finished the whole like abandoned wizard place, right? You probably have 1, 2. I'd say you probably have about 3 bosses, maybe 4, till you get to like the start of the flip. But then you have a little bit more past that. Like it kind of a twist happens, then you kind of have a little bit of a lulling period where it's like, okay, now we're just kind of dealing with the aftermath of the twist. We're kind of just figuring out what we're going to do. Then a little bit after that lulling period is when it kind of snaps in and you kind of start the next, part of the adventure, I would say. And so I would say if I had to guesstimate like time wise, I would guess you probably have maybe 5 to 6 hours until you get to that point. Okay.
And I do think that is far too late. I think they probably could have trimmed up the beginning a little bit to get you to that point faster, or at least to get you to the first twist faster. Because I feel like that first twist is kind of like when, it's kind of like that meme of the WWE guy where, he's like, oh, and then the next panel, he's like, whoa. And then the next panel, he's like falling over. I legitimately feel like they do that where like the first twist happens. You're like, okay,
I
okay.
need to clip that face.
And then and then the second big thing happens, you're like, okay.
I love that.
And then this isn't a spoiler because you'll have no idea who this is, and you do not find out until you find out who it is. But once you meet Rashawn to me is when the game kicks on and is like, all right, you're here now. You've gone through the beginning. Let's get into this game and let's get going. And so once you meet Rashawn, I feel like that is when the game kicks off. And I cannot recommend more to anybody who has dabbled in Sea of Stars. At least get to that point. If you fall off after that point, I don't see how you could, but if you fall off after that point, then I think that's fair. But I feel like everybody should at least get to that point and make their decision on if this game is for them or not. Then. And so I'm very excited to play it. I'm planning on beating it by the time we talk next time. I feel like it's probably going to be pretty reasonable because I've been putting in about 2-3 hours a day, and I'm probably going to put in a little bit more this weekend. So I will have my final thoughts kind of put together by the next time we meet up on Sea of Stars.
Awesome.
Maybe I'll mess around and do a little video. Who knows? Maybe.
Oh, a little video essay. I love this, Ford.
Maybe. We'll see.
I love that. So, do we want to move on to another set of news, or?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about news. As far as the other stuff that I've been playing, nothing really crazy has come up other than what, or do I want to talk about that
before we get into
before
we get into any other news? I do want to say that just stay tuned, guys, because here, after we reveal a couple news stories, before we get into the juice, I do want to give Ford a little quiz. I have a 10-question quiz. It's going to be a sound quiz, and I got a point system laid out. It's not very well thought out in terms of the points, but we're just going to see how many points you can get. There's a total of 10 questions, 30 points available. Basically,
nice. I love this.
And I'll give you the rules are as follows before we get into it too much. So it's basically a sound quiz. You're gonna hear sound. You're gonna hear varying video game sounds, classic to new, and voices, music, all kinds of different things. And they're things that I think that you might know. You should know all of them. I'm pretty sure. Few of them are total gimmies, but there's a couple that might be a little hard. But basically, you're gonna need to for the full 3 points, you're going to need to give me what's happening or what character it is, and then what game they're from. Some of those are going to be just a given because they're self-titled, maybe, or something. But and then you get -2 points for a hint and -1 point for a replay. So you got to be listening.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, I'm very excited for this. Yeah, we're trying out new things. Damage Check is far from its peak. We are going to be introducing a lot of stuff over the next few months. So
absolutely. So I'm all into this. So we can start with some early news if you wanted to go ahead.
Yeah, so we got a couple of news stories today. Nothing too crazy, but HP brought a couple of them to my attention, actually. And I'd like to start with one of them that I wasn't aware of, but actually went and did some research because he brought it to my attention. China is banning gacha/gambling in games within China, obviously. This is very interesting. So to clarify, though, this specifically banning it for minors. Now, realistically, that means it's going to basically be banned because you can't split up a game based off of, if you're a minor or not, essentially.
Right.
But I think this is really interesting because I feel like a lot of people don't really pay attention a lot to the Chinese gaming market. But the reality is that when they make decisions, it shifts a lot of stuff around because companies like Tencent own large swaths of the video game industry. And so it's going to be very interesting how this kind of ripple effects. And if it ends up going through, to be clear, this is a proposition, hasn't happened, it's not set in stone quite yet. But I did want to kind of talk and get your thoughts on what you think about kind of the banning of gacha/gambling in games. So do you have any thoughts on that, HP?
My thoughts are this is genius. I think that there could be some ripple effects for sure that this could change, but For someone who I don't really get addicted to things that easily, so whenever back in the day, whenever they started to take away like loot boxes from games, not just in China but anywhere, like they started to do away with that because it was a little like. But I'm like, hey, don't buy it, forehead. You know, but that it's not that easy for some people, and I feel like a lot of people don't take. I mean, we as a society take drug addiction very seriously. Typically, we try to. But we don't look into other addictions. There's many other addictions that the human condition suffers to, and gambling is one of them. And so I think putting that in your games is a bit scummy. Period. Like, you know, they have it in CS, and they have, I mean, as far as I know, I don't really know how that works, but I know that you can technically gamble because you can like buy a knife or a box and open it up and all that stuff, whatever. But you know, I don't find problems with it in things like Overwatch, because I see it no different than something like Pokemon cards. Except for you can't trade them. I guess CS you technically can, but in like Overwatch, so you can't really. So when you can do that, it starts to become a problem too. I personally don't see that there's a huge issue with it. I just think it's scummy because anything that's predatory, like games are already becoming more and more predatory without gachas. Adding in gachas makes it way worse. So I think that just don't prey on people. I mean, like, for example, sex sells. So you're going to have like boobas and butts and games and little sexual, you got your nudities, your, you know, 17 pluses and stuff like that. I get it. Not just in games, but in media in general. I get it. It's a, like, again, for a company just to make a quick buck, it's a bit scummy because like for example, GTA is doing like preying on sexual addiction technically, or to a degree they're preying on that type of, but they're also supplying you with a good product and a good game. It's not just predatory. So, and I don't know about the China games, but like a lot of the things that you're talking about with Tencent and stuff like that, Tencent has many games. Their umbrella is so wide, and so there's I'm sure there's a bunch of phone games that are just, you know, tap to buy $10 at a time. You know, I'm sure it's like pretty crazy. So to be predatory on that just bothers me alone. I don't think that there's really much else for me to say on it, other than I wanted to hear your thoughts on the ripple effect, because you did mention that this could, because of Tencent being, because this is in China, but this could set some precedent for us, and what you thought about that. Because mine is just mainly just, I just think the predatory nature of companies like that is kind of scammy anyway. So I think it's a good thing.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I definitely have some thoughts on it. You know, as someone who engages in the gacha every once in a while, you know, I have essentially a gacha game, Honkai Star Rail. That's kind of like I feel like with gacha games, you pretty much have like one, and that's kind of your one that you stick with. There's some people that do multiple, and I don't understand how you can do that. But
quick question: Would you consider card games a gacha game? Because you are getting the value out from the game and what it's always been since the 80s, 90s, you know?
Yeah, and I do consider, you know,
like Magic.
I do consider that to kind of be in the same ballpark, especially if you're talking about like physical cards nowadays too. I definitely think that those have definitely gone down the line of being much more about gacha and gambling and all that kind of stuff. And I don't necessarily have like any... I think that with a lot of things that can be dangerous, I believe in regulation. And I think that's kind of what China is trying to do here. To paint the clearest picture, I actually pulled it up real quick while you were talking. This is everything that the Chinese regulators proposed. And this got proposed just a few weeks ago in December. So randomized draws, ban randomized draws for minders, which includes gacha style mechanics like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Loot boxes, ban the use of loot boxes and gacha monetization. Auctioning, ban publishers from enabling the auctioning of in-game items. Digital wallet spending, limit digital wallet top-ups and spending. Content purchases, force online games with loot boxes or gacha mechanics to provide players with an option to buy content directly. Loot box and gacha mechanic rates, require studios to adopt reasonable rates for loot box and gacha mechanics. And finally, daily spending, limit total daily spending per player.
The last one, I kind of like that.
I do as well. I think that limiting spending is probably a good way to kind of stifle,
at least mitigate a little bit. Yeah,
mitigate a little bit. And that's kind of with a lot of these. I'm like, I don't know if I believe in the wholesale removal of gacha monetization, because I do think that there is, granted, I don't think people should be going into, Genshin Impact and dropping a cool $300 to try to get random character they made. I think that's a little egregious, but I do kind of like the idea. Just like as a kid, I really liked the idea of Pokemon card packs and Magic card packs.
Yeah, I still do. Yeah.
Yeah, I still do. I buy cards now still. And I do enjoy that experience, even though some of them are bummers. I still do enjoy that experience of, oh yeah, I got the pack that gave me the thing, right?
Yeah.
But I think that a couple of big delineations come between that, which is, I think the biggest one that if any of these were to actually end up getting passed and have the ripple effect across the industry, the big one I would want is for content purchasing, which is, to read it again, force online games with loot boxes or gacha mechanics to provide players with an option to buy content directly.
I would agree with that because
the number one thing I want.
If there's something that we're not available for trading, like if you can trade, I don't think there should be that, because then you just buy the biggest thing. At least it'd be, I don't know, it's a hard sell, but I would agree with that to a certain degree, because it's like, yeah, you want people like, but then it almost kind of gets rid of the point of the gacha, right? Because like, unless you're spending $5 to potentially get something for 20, but if you pay 20 and you just get the thing, like, that's cool, but odds are you might as well just spend the 20 because you're going to spend more than 20.
So I think that's kind of the objective, where kind of like with card games right now,
that almost makes it more predatory, in my opinion, though.
Oh, interesting. Oh, let me finish this thought and I'll get back to that. So like with card packs right now, you can go onto eBay right now, and you can buy the Ultra Mega Charizard, whatever the hell is in the new Pokemon card pack, whatever is the new thing. You can just go buy that directly. Take out the gambling aspect and just go pay whatever the value price of it is. And that's something that I feel like that, or, if that card is $400, you might say, okay, yeah, let me try spending, $60 to buy a pack, to see if I get lucky on the draw. And I think that's where that kind of comes in versus, if we took it into the gacha games, like for example, I mentioned I play Honkai Star Rail, here and there. And yeah, there are characters where if they had the option where it's like, hey, you can do a pull for, I think each pull is like, I want to say it's like $2 or $3 for like a pull to see if you get the character. If they were just like, hey, instead you could do the pulls if you want, or you can give us $50 to buy the character. I feel like, granted, I think $50 would be expensive, but I also think a lot of microtransactions right now are expensive. So I'm not exactly the target audience, but I think that would be better that way you can kind of take out the gambling portion of it and just say, just let me pay for the thing. And that's something I've been saying, I feel like a lot lately. I talked about streaming services the other day, and where, with TV shows, even at this point, I'm just like, just let me buy the TV show. Let me buy the thing.
I'm with that. That's a little bit different, but I'm with that, because it's a little bit less predatory.
It's not gambling.
Yeah.
But I definitely just am in the boat now of, can we just take out this fluff and just let me buy the thing? Whatever you think the thing is valued at, just let me buy the thing. And if the value's too much, cool, I won't buy the thing, but just give me the option to buy the thing. And that's what I would really like out of these.
I'm with that. I think the problem is that I was going to say, I think that the problem is typically with these things, because I think that these things have a space. I think it is gambling at its core, and so is like Pokemon cards. But I still kind of dabble in that. Fortunately, I don't suffer from the addictive factor of it. I get railed in a little bit, but it's a fun time typically, because I like what I get and I like the pretty pictures. But I think that either way, it's going to be predatory. So if you like, let's just use Honkai Star Rail. I don't even know what kind of game it is, but let's say you love this game. Is there anything that would you like it if you could just play the game and get the thing versus paying for it? So like, the problem is what they're, that's kind of a rhetorical question, because like, you could go either way depending on the situation or depending on the thing. But like, some of these games, they don't do that. And so that's where I feel like as long as it's hard to make rules and laws against things when there's so many nuance, and it's just gray. There's no black and white, because some of these things are going to be strictly predatory, just blocking you from all content unless you pay this, pay that, pay this, pay that. Whereas Honkai might have where there's a lot of gameplay, but then you're like, well, I don't really want to spend money, but I love this game. Can I get the thing without spending the money? And that's great, but that's not the kind of game that it is. So it's just it's a weird balance between like, is it predatory, is it not? There's just too much nuance to be definitive, in my opinion. It's hard.
Yeah, that's fair, and that's why I think that and that's kind of where I come on my point of, I just don't think that some of these things about just like straight up banning all this stuff. I agree. I think there's a place for this stuff, but I do think it needs to be regulated. There needs to be some sort of way that can stop people, the people who maybe don't have as much self-control. There definitely needs to be like a hard spending limit that's like, hey, like,
that's the one I like the most.
Step back, take a breath. You just dropped $300 to try to get a waifu in Genshin. Take a step back, come back tomorrow and see if you still want to drop another. Yeah, because
if you break that up on the, I mean, I'm not gonna say that I fully understand addicts, but I I feel like if you break it up a little bit within their brain, instead of like letting them spend $1,000 in a day, if you break it up and let them only do 50 or something, then maybe they'll be like, yeah, I'll try again tomorrow. And then they wake up and they're like, I don't even want to play Genshin or whatever the game, So yes, that in my opinion, at the very least, is the most responsible change that they could do.
Yeah, I think that's a great change. I think, like I said, let me just directly buy the content is a great change. And I do think in a lot of ways, I think that trying to find a way to mitigate it for minors is also probably a really, really good idea.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, kids don't really need to be engaging in a lot of this type of gambling and kind of things.
And they don't understand what effects that's doing long term too.
Yeah, long-term effects on minors and stuff when it comes to gambling. Us as adults, we can make decisions and everything with our money. Granted, we can still fall prey to a lot of that kind of stuff, but we are definitely much less likely to fall prey to that stuff and form long-term problems due to it. But yeah, I mean, Tencent, like I said, Tencent owns a lot of stuff. So if a lot of these regulations go through, it will shake up the industry quite a bit and have to change up a lot of monetization. Because think about it this way, Tencent, they own Riot Games. Riot Games does loot boxes. You can go into the store, you can buy those loot boxes. Granted, they have that direct purchase option, so you can't just go direct purchase skins and all that kind of stuff. But you can also go get those masterwork loot boxes and just try to roll skins and see what you get. And so that could definitely change up League of Legends. That could definitely change up things like Valorant. I think
League has it so right though, because you can pay.
You think so?
Yeah, because. Maybe it's because I'm not addicted to it, right? Maybe that's why. But I personally don't even really care about skins in general. But League does it where you can buy all the champions, but you can also wait and get them for free. And it doesn't take too long if you're playing this. I mean, because it's a lot. The game has so much longevity. It's been out for 12 years or more. So it's like, or 14 years now. And so I think that they do have it right, because you don't ever have to spend a dime. Now, I have even fallen prey. I think I've spent over $500 on League of Legends, but that's over the course of 14 years. Do I think that they've given me $500 worth of value of my time and enjoyment? Yes. I love that game. As much as I hate that game, I love that game. So, as much as any League player does, they'll say the same thing. So I do think that they have it right, because you can purchase directly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Sirens. You can purchase it directly, and you can do the loot box thing if you want. I've never really noticed that even being an option. Maybe it's because I don't care for that stuff in the game like that, but they also, this is something that no one else does, and this is why I think that they do it the best, because if you play enough, like I pretty much only play ARAMs. Now, recently I've been playing the Rift, but I'm pretty much only play ARAMs, which is, for anyone who doesn't play League, it's a side game mode. It's not the main game mode. And so I play that enough to have gotten enough Orange Essence, which is basically their version of earned real money, and you can use that to purchase skins in the game. So I have so many skins recently for champions that I would have never bought a skin for, because I have so much Orange Essence. So they're giving me free skins by just playing the game. That's genius, in my opinion. Because then I might spend more money, but I don't have to.
Yeah, and I do agree with that providing the avenue to get stuff for free, like, for example, like even like Honkai Star Rail, like just doing your daily things basically gives you enough for a pull. You can get essentially a pull per day if you really wanted to.
See, there you go. It's like I said, there's just so much nuance and so much gray that it's like some places can do it right. I feel like League does do it right. I don't think it's very predatory at all. I feel like it kind of respects your time by giving you skins back in return. So
I would mostly agree with that. I think the prices they have for some of this stuff is kind of crazy. But once again, that's up to the consumer to decide what is worth it for them, right?
Exactly.
And so that's totally up to them. And they've probably done billions of dollars in research to find out that perfect price point for X skin or whatever. Because for example, I look at like Valorant gun skins, and they're like, oh yeah, this one's like $40. I'm like, for a gun skin,
right?
What? But once again, that's just me. Plenty of people love that stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my main thoughts on it. We probably won't hear much about this until probably like another month or two, if anything, because a lot of these propositions end up getting knocked down and then kind of changed up. But it could be very interesting in the long term.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's all I got to say about that too. So
next up, we got this is a quick one. I'll kind of let you take the rails on this, but Tetris officially beat, or at least got a kill screen, first time ever, by a 13-year-old Willis Gibson. Tell me about this. I didn't look this one up.
So this is it's been about 2-3 weeks now since this has even happened. So this is a little bit old news. We didn't cover it last week, so I figured we give it a little bit of due justice here. Just congratulations to Willis Gibson, because that's incredible. I mean, a 13-year-old that did something that no one's ever been able to do yet. I mean, notoriously, we've seen Donkey Kong and Pac-Man kill screens, but we've never seen Tetris. So I just wanted to congratulate the kid. There was obviously some news on it because this like British reporter kind of shit on him, said that he needs to go outside or something. It's like he's a 13-year-old kid. He's just playing a game, whatever. But he's the best at. I mean, that could kickstart this kid's career. I mean,
So what is the kill screen though? Does it just say you beat me?
No,
later?
so these old games didn't have enough memory to go so high. So these old games were infinite. Pac-Man is infinite. Tetris is infinite. Donkey Kong, they're all these games are infinite. All those old games, those old arcade games are infinite. So, sorry, I should be switching to me. So since those are infinite, they have what they call a kill screen, where the memory can't read the score, so the game just freezes. Because the score is so high that you got to the end by scoring so much. So the data just cannot go any higher. And so, he basically, played until he got a score. Because the score says 9999999 for a long time before you even get the kill screen. So he had that score forever and just kept playing. But the game still counts it in the background. And then it got to a point where the game was like, oh, kill the game. So he did it and he froze. He has this little glove on. I don't know if you know about, I can tell the audience about it a little too. In Pro Tetris, they wear a glove, like a very, like a wool glove almost, because the plastic, your fingers will slide off of the plastic super easily. So what they do is they turn the controller upside down and they hold the directional inputs, and instead of tapping like bum 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 bum, you can only get like 5 or so a second, by just tapping. But if you use all 5 of your fingers on the back of the controller and hover your thumb on the arrows, you can do 5 inputs in a second. Quickly. So that's why they do that. They turn their controller upside down and they use a glove so that they don't have friction. Because if you have your fingers are going to get stuck to the controller a little bit. But if you have a glove on, you slip up. Yeah, I love it too. It's really incredible, cool, dude. Yeah, so just cool. Just a little shout out. Like, forget the reporter who shit on the kid. Congratulations, Willis Gibson. I know you're probably not listening, but you did the thing, man. Good job.
Yeah, you did the thing. Let me say, HP. I love when you bring these stories up to my attention. Like a lot of the smaller stuff that's kind of like this awesome little peek into like not even just like a subculture, but like a subculture of video games. And it's always so interesting to me because it always reminds me just how deep and vast this this hobby that we all enjoy is, and it always just brings a smile to my face. Thank you. That is awesome. The whole grip thing reminds me of like the old days, when Monster Hunter was on PSP only, and we used to hold the controller or hold the PSP all weird so we could claw grip all the buttons and stuff like that. Super, super cool. I love that. Awesome. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
No problem, my friend.
Now we're going to switch over to a little bit heavier of a topic. So we're going from heavy, light to heavy. And then I'll see if I can get a light one in there.
We might do the quiz after this one.
Oh, that's true. This would be a good time for the quiz. Give us a little break from it. So SAG-AFTRA signed agreement to allow devs to use AI voices in games and not be victim to, say, like a strike or something along those lines. So, interesting development, to say the least. You want to go first on this one?
I don't know a whole lot about the details in this, so I don't really have much to say. Because I know that we had the SAG strikes, right? And so correct me if I'm wrong. They're the writers, right? SAG-AFTRA is the writers.
SAG-AFTRA is the Actors Guild.
Or the Actors Guild. Sorry, the writers. We had the Actors Guild and the Writers Guild that were both just recently on strike. Yes. So sorry, that's what I meant. The actor is what I meant. The actors. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here, because I just don't like this, because I love AI being used as a tool, and if that's what this is, I'm all for it. If AI is just replacing people, I'm not for it. If we're not paying people for their voices, I'm not for it. If we are giving people royalties for using their voice in AI, sure, but even then they're going to get less money because they're not the talent of the show anymore. You know me, I'm an AI hater. I'm not a never AIer, but I'm very close. I do think it's a great tool to be used. I just hate that what it takes, or what it makes us human, is what it's taking away first. And so if they're for it, they're the ones that are making the call. So they signed an agreement. What else can I say? They're the actors. They're the ones that have the actual say. So, I mean, if you have any opinions on it, I don't know much else, but
I can provide a little bit of context. So this is basically a deal that was struck up with a very particular group, Replica. Was it Studios or? Yeah, Replica Studios. That essentially came to a deal with SAG-AFTRA to allow people to license their voices for digital replication. Without falling victim to a strike. So it's not just, oh, you guys can use AI voices however you want. This is more specifically to say, if you want to use AI voices, you can license one of our members, essentially, a SAG-AFTRA member, to then use a digital replication of their voice. From my understanding of what I looked at, I mean, all the details aren't really out in the open right now. But from the way that I understand it is essentially you would have to come to that deal with the actor in question, not just with SAG. So you would have to.
So it's a personal thing too.
It's a personal thing too. So for example, I would have to go to you. If you're a SAG-AFTRA member, I would have to essentially go to you and say, hey, HP, I'm making a game. I would like to use AI voices, and I would like to use a digital replication of your voice, and we would kind of go from there, using whatever technology they have. They would have you probably say X amount of lines. That would give enough data for the replication software to work. It'd be like, all right, cool. The licensing is done. You will be given a fee. Have a nice life. We'll do everything else with the AI framework that we made with your
quick
voice.
Brown fox jumps over the lazy dog type.
Yeah, something like, yeah, exactly. Say these 3 lines, and then boom, we can now make you say whatever we want with this digital replication.
Okay, well then I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think that is okay? First off, and then I have a follow up.
I think as once I feel like I'm going to eventually start getting heat as like an AI forgiver or something like that. But I am in the boat of, if you are the one if you are getting paid and compensated for the use of your likeness and your voice, I think that's fine. As long as it's something you've agreed to. If SAG-AFTRA could just go and be like, oh yeah, just use HP's voice because he's one of our guild, then that's like a whole, no. You do not have permission from, all these different people. But yeah, if a studio is just like, hey, we want to use AI voices because it's going to help us be a little bit more
efficient,
robust, efficient with, what we need to do. But you're still going to get paid for that said likeness, that, that digital replication of your voice. I don't see an issue with that. As long as both parties agree to it, I don't see an issue.
I agree with you, and I'm fully with you on that. I don't disagree. Now, here's the second question. What if they take your voice, you're the actor in question, this is what pays your mortgage or whatever, and then they pitch shift it up and give it a slight accent because it's AI, they can dial it anywhere. Now it's no longer your voice. They don't have to pay you.
Well, but once again, it's a licensing for my voice. It's not necessary. So,
but they're not using your voice anymore. What I'm saying is, like, there can be a software where they just, because like AI right now, it just copies voices. But what about when it doesn't copy voices? What about when literally next year there will be they will just be able to create infinite amount of different noises and sounds and voices and accents and anything. I mean, accents we probably have never even heard yet.
So this is when it comes down to data. AI cannot function without data. AI cannot create without data. And so that is the thing that you should be licensing. I'll have to reread a little bit later on to see if
there's going to be some under the table stuff, my friend.
I mean, there always is. But the problem is I don't want to say there's no way to stop it, but
okay, real quick. I have a phenomenal point for this. Do you know who George Carlin is, the comedian?
Yes.
He has passed away about, what, 14, 15 years ago?
Yeah, something along those lines. He's been gone for a while.
Have you seen his new special that just came out?
Interesting. No, I have not. So,
I have. And guess what? It's good. It's really good. It sounds and it has everything just like him. It's his cadence. He even does those things where he kind of and he's counting a thing, and the government wants to do this because they do this, but then they stop because they all suck dick or whatever. You know how he does. It's perfect because they had an AI bot watch his entire special, all of his specials, and create a new one called "I'm Glad I'm Dead," which is something he would literally do. It's even more perfect. So not only that, what bothers me about it is the beginning of it. So if you all want to know, I'm referencing Dudesy. I want to give him credit, even though it's so scummy. Just look up Dudesy. They don't have a lot of. It's like a Will Sasso's podcast that he has with his friend who I've never even heard of. But either way, it's like a comedy podcast, but they do AI stuff. I don't even understand it really. I didn't really do much research on them, but they have a special on Dudesy and from George Carlin, but they don't call it "This is George Carlin's special." They do say that, but at the beginning they have a disclaimer. This is why this is scummy. They say Dudesy talks in his own voice. He's like, "I am Dudesy, and I am a robot AI programmed to learn and impersonate things." So here is George Carlin's special. But just to remind you, this is not George Carlin. This is me, Dudesy, doing an impression of George Carlin. Well, guess what? You've figured out the loophole because AI can do an impression of anybody. So as long as you call it an impression, no one has to get anything, because we have people that will go out there and do, they've even pointed out, he's like, there's no difference between me doing an impression of George Carlin and whoever the good Elvis impersonators are, right? Like they'd be like, oh, this person impersonated Elvis or did an impression of Elvis, and this person did an impression of George, Will Ferrell does George Bush or whatever on SNL. I am doing that, but with George Carlin. But it's AI, so it's perfect. It's not even comedy. It's not. Sorry. Like Will Ferrell's, for example, is parody. He is not. No one is mistaking him for George Bush. Sure. It's parody. This is not parody George Carlin. This is George Carlin. It's literally perfect to the point where this is something he would even say and do in this time of the world. It's crazy. And I hate that I like it. I hated that I like it.
Sure. So, but you started out with saying that the AI was trained on all of George Carlin's specials before he went in and said the stuff and did the impersonation that the AI laid over, correct?
Right. I guess the point that I'm trying to make with that is they can just use the vernacular, I'm doing an impression. I'm an AI doing an impression.
They're doing an impression, but the AI still got trained on data. And that's the thing we need to start regulating is data. And that's what I think this deal actually does well, is it's basically saying if you are going to use the data of an actor with their permission, you have to pay said actor if you are going to do said thing. And
but what about an unwilling participant? What about thousands? Do we have billions, probably billions of hours of footage of random people all over Twitch who have 0 viewers? Would they even know if you put their voice in a game?
No, and that is an issue.
That's scary.
An issue. Yeah, that definitely is an issue. I'm not going to discount that right now AI is running wild and just using whatever data it wants. But that's why I try to tell like a lot of the never AIers is that you're fighting the wrong battle. Pandora's box is open.
100%.
Now we need to figure out a way to protect the data that is out there and make sure that if it is going to get used, proper compensation, proper safety things, proper things are happening to make sure that AI can't just go and be like, yeah, I'm just going to scrape the bottom of Twitch for whatever voices and go with that.
But I agree with you fully on everything you just said. But there is a little thing where you're saying that they need data. Well, self-learning AIs in the future won't need data. They can teach themselves to create their own voice box. I'm sure of it.
Sure, but I think that
not just for voices. I'm saying with anything, but voice is what we're talking about.
Sure. I think that we are still probably a ways off from it being able to. Right now, AI is able to be a direct replica, as you said, with like George Carlin, because of data. Maybe I'm being optimistic, and I'll totally own up to that. But I definitely think we are still a ways away from a self-learning AI with zero data on any of that stuff will be able to actually make a replication that is, let's say, not discernible by the human ear. I think that you will run into, because you run into those cadence things. Like that's stuff that can only be gathered by data. That's stuff that can only be seen by data. A self-learning AI it's not going to have any of that data to know. You can say, oh, do George Carlin. And you could try to give it like data. You could try to feed it data like by saying, oh, he's got like this range of voice frequencies, blah, blah, blah. He kind of does this, that, and the other, but it's never going to be what you're used to being as George Carlin because it doesn't have the data that you would be comparing it to.
So,
and I feel like we are a ways off from reaching a point where a self-learning AI, a self-contained AI will be dataless and be able to replicate.
Okay, this. So if we can keep it that way, but I can get a little esoteric for you just to poke the bear a little bit. What about starting to make AI I wouldn't say not a citizenship because that's way down the road. Or I mean there technically already has been one, but you know, that's still a little way out there. But what's the difference between let's use people that are somewhat similar. You got like Hulk Hogan and like Macho Man. Like they both do the brother and they both do this and I don't know if this is even true, but let's say Macho Man learned from Hulk Hogan.
Sure.
Does Macho Man owe him royalty? No, because he might be biting off of him, but in no world would anyone go, well, you need to pay him. Because he's his own thing. He learned from him, maybe. But how do you know that the AI is not just a sentient being at this point, just learning from things? Like, what's the difference between us growing up as kids and learning to do a skill because we were taught it versus an AI growing up and being taught it? What's the difference?
There's no difference.
Semantically, at least.
I definitely when we reach the point where AIs can essentially just self-learn off of the experiences around them, there's not going to be a ton of difference.
So then, I mean, where does that data? Who do we pay for that data then? Because I don't have to pay. Like, if I had a child and he learned to be the best voice actor, I don't have to pay him because he trained from Matt Mercer. I don't have to pay Matt Mercer, is what I mean. Because even though he got all of his data, if you will, from Matt Mercer, or for example, but an AI is doing the same thing, but they do it perfectly, and that's why it's data. You know what I mean? Humans aren't doing it perfectly. We're just we're human. But AIs are doing the same thing that humans are doing, just perfectly.
I think the reality is it's because that data is traceable. That data is malleable in a way, right? And I think that because it's malleable and because it's so rigid, I think that's why you can still make those comparisons versus like, you know, me growing up, if I watched all the George Carlin things a whole bunch of times versus an AI that watched it all the time. The reality is that if the AI is just getting mixed in with those, if the AI is just getting that George Carlin experience, you're only using that data versus me, you're mixing in George Carlin with Will Ferrell, with Will Smith or whoever else.
That's fair, but it's just like, that's what I'm saying is like, just the reason you're doing that is because you're human, but you're still learning just like an AI would be learning. Yep. And it really does boil down to semantics, and the law is going to have to change really fast. And if we know anything about laws and legalization of anything in marijuana, you know, anywhere, we are pretty behind on all the laws.
100%. And it's going to be rough. there's no getting around it. It's going to be rough. But that's why I'm telling people, once again, I'll get flagged for it, but I'm telling people, stop fighting it. Get with it so you can now be a part of changing this and making sure that it doesn't get out of control. The more people that we have wrangling this thing in, the better, versus people just standing in the way and saying, I don't like this. You're just going to get ran over. It's already happened. The Pandora's box is open. You're not putting this back in the box.
I would agree with.
There's just no way that's going to
I
happen.
fully agree with that. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is it's AI and not a new car. Like horses to cars, we're still moving. Like I said, AI can do anything instantaneously. Yep. And so it's already out of control. Period. The laws just will not catch up to it. It won't. If we can't have legal marijuana in certain states, but neighboring states can, that literally makes zero sense. We're not making laws around AI.
I live in one of those states.
Same.
And it sucks.
Same. Literally north, south, east, and west of us all have it legalized, and it's not here.
Yeah, it's stupid. I mean, I guess I guess I'll end my spiel because we could definitely. This is the conversation that's going to go on forever. But I guess to end my spiel on it is the main thing I want people to take away is I don't actually think this SAG-AFTRA deal is necessarily bad. I get that a lot of voice actors came out and said, why didn't they talk to us? And I think they definitely should have. But I think the reality is that this is there to ensure some level of protection for people. Because if not, it basically boils down to this. If SAG-AFTRA wouldn't have signed this deal, they would have done it anyways. It would have gotten caught up in a whole bunch of bunch of courts, and some people would have gotten paid, some people wouldn't. It would have gotten mixed, a whole mixed bag, and it would have just still continued on anyways. Whereas SAG-AFTRA stepping in right now and saying, hey, we know you're going to do this. We're not stupid. We know that you are going to do this. We know you are going to replicate voices. We know you're going to train your guys on data of some of our members. Let's get ahead of it right now so that we don't have to go to courts. We don't have to get stuck into decades of battles about this stuff.
But that's the sad thing is they have to do this moral high ground thing and just take the L, but walk alongside them while losing. I don't think they're losing necessarily, but because they're still going to get paid for it. So I'm not saying it's a full loss, but it just sucks that it has to be this way. I'm not a never AIer, you know that.
It does suck, but I do think that it is the pragmatic move because I will tell you, it would have sucked more if they didn't. It would have sucked a whole lot more for everybody else if they didn't. Because now at least there's a precedent. There's something there for their members that they can say, hey, if you are going to replicate the voice of our members, you have to essentially get permission. And if you end up, backing out of that or causing a problem with that or not getting permission, cool. SAG-AFTRA will now never work for you guys. You're not going to have any of the licenses to our voices. We can go on strike. We can do all these different things. They now have a lot more ammunition other than just, I guess we have to sue you and maybe the courts will find it in our favor. Maybe they won't. Whereas now it's a lot more cut and dry and they can have a lot more power if it ever ends up going to those courts.
Sure, but then you're going to have some weasel who's not a voice actor just come in and just talk on a podcast type thing, and then they get paid royalties for not even being talented. They're just talking.
I mean, yeah, you have scabs for that right now. I mean, but unfortunately, that's in every industry. That's
just sucks.
Everywhere.
It's just really sad.
It sucks. But
I never thought in my wildest dreams that art would be taken away from humans.
But again, I don't blame AI for that. I blame far more things other than AI for that. I blame a lot of the capitalist systems we are
100%
adhering to. It's not AI's fault that people are going to try to capitalize on stuff. It's the way our society is set up. AI is just a tool that now these guys can use that sucks. But once again, getting with that tool allows you to have more control of it than just letting all the bad actors, not actors as in acting, but bad actors.
Bad eggs.
All those people take this and run with it freely. I'm telling people, I'm telling artists right now, get with the program. I'm not saying go out there and start using AI for everything and all that, but don't be this person that shuts everything down, because I'm telling you right now, you're going to get ran over and you're going to have accomplished absolutely nothing. And it's better to get with it and have more control over it as we approach this era of AI fucking craziness.
How does the layman artist get with it?
I think you get
like
with
how
it
does Sirens get with it?
I think that the way that you get with it is, one, you definitely need to start. This is going to come off so preachy, and I am so sorry to everybody. I'm not trying to preach to you. I swear to God. But it does start with making sure, one, you got to start getting involved in your local elections. You got to start talking to a lot of your local politicians and stuff like that, because those are the people that are actually going to get this stuff on the floor of governments to ensure that they're hearing a lot of your concerns. There are many, many artists in the United States, and I guarantee you a large portion of them are not really being represented
And
by their representatives.
No, they're not, because it's a geroocracy and everyone's 900 years old.
But the best way to change that right now is to make sure that when elections come up, you get into the booths, you get into the voting cycle, you get into all that kind of stuff. That is how you're going to actually, if you want to enact change on a government level, that is how you're going to enact that change. If you want to more enact change in an internet way, the reality is that the way that you're going to do that is going to be more so by education, and more so by making sure that the groups that are making a lot of these decisions are groups that have representatives within them from your community.
Okay, then I have a question too, then, before we end this topic. How do you police it? You said it's about data. So if it's all about data, which I don't believe that's going to be the case in 2 years, it will not be about data because they will self-learn. But if it is forever about data, how do you police it when it's it's something you can't see? The layman can't see. You're going to have literal cyber police tracking data, because like right now, I mean, half the people still can't, like, no one even knows how to check the blockchain for their NFTs. Now, obviously the guy does, but most people don't. So how do you police that?
I mean, man, you're just trying to dig me into the internet hatred hole.
No,
Everyone's
it's not. No one's hating you. I don't think. I just think I'm not saying you have to. This is more of a rhetorical question. Like, you don't have that answer. No one has that answer. It's going to be hard to police that.
It 100% is going to be hard to police that. But once again, I'm going to say something that's really unpopular, and people are not going to like that I'm going to say it, but NFTs sucked. NFTs totally sucked. They were a scam. Yes.
Most people believe that.
The blockchain does not. The blockchain is something that allows you to essentially stamp data.
Yeah.
And I think that is the biggest thing that we need. So when you put up a video with your stamp on it, that data will carry that stamp for essentially ever.
Yeah, it's like public metadata.
Exactly. And
I'm with really that. I don't think anyone hates that. I think most people agree with that.
Trust me, man. But you talk about Web3, anything that even is tangentially linked to NFTs, people will burn you alive for it.
Well, good. Maybe our show gets popular.
Yeah. Bad publicity, any publicity is good publicity, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think once again, I just feel like if we would stop trying to fight all this stuff, like obviously the people who are taking advantage of this stuff and all that, just ignore them. Don't give them oxygen. They're a small little fire, and if you stop giving them an oxygen, they stop breathing and they go away, and they're not going to be a problem anymore. Stop wasting your time on those people, but you do have to get with the program. You have to start being a part of these conversations. You can't just turn your head and say no and say, I don't want to be involved in this. You got to be involved in this, man. You got to start getting with it so that your voice can be heard in this stuff. And that voice can't just say no, because you're always going to get drowned out by the yeses. So you got to find out how you can come to a common ground with those yeses, and to where you're still going to be protected. Your livelihood is still going to be protected. Your work is still going to be protected. Your passion is still going to be protected. But you can't just keep turning your head and saying no, because then you're going to finally turn your head and say yes, and they're going to have already been so far gone from everything that you wanted that your voice just isn't going to matter anymore.
I would agree with that. But people are saying no in a bigger way, so it's just tough. Like Sirens mentioned Rubber Ross. We can talk about this a little bit later too, because this is actually an art topic, like physical or digital art topic. But I mean that's a big topic of contingency with a lot of big artists. So and they are saying
there was a news release where they were keeping track of artists that they were using training for fabrication without the arts knowledge. So yeah, that's fucked up. And once again, if we had say a lot of that data like on a blockchain, like that database on a blockchain, it would have had that stamp, take them to court. Hey, they took this data, they took it without our licensing, without our agreement. Boom, sue them, get that company shut down, move on to the next one. Granted, I know that sounds very simple and simplified, but in a simplified way, that's essentially how we should start working on trying to police this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. AI is always a fun topic.
AI is always an interesting topic. Always an interesting topic. And with that, we talked about a heavy topic. So HP has a fun quiz for us, and so I'm actually going to turn it over to him.
No, I'm done. I quit. No, HP quiz damage check. Make that the title.
Yeah, boom. He's done.
So, yeah, the game show. So I'm gonna I'll leave it like this on this scene. So yeah, the point system goes as follows. If you can get with AI HP.
Super Saiyan Guns in the chat. HP gets replaced with AI HP. I already got all the data, brother. All right.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Okay, so basically this goes as follows. There's 3 points available. If you get what the sound is itself, you get 2 points. If you get the game that they're from, you get 1 point. But no matter what, if you get the sound or the game, if you start losing points. So if you need a hint, you get -2. If you need me to replay it, so you better be listening, you get -1. Some of these I will play more than once in general, or well, some of these will the sound continues, but we'll see. So you're gonna have to turn on emote only chat. Oh, I could do. No, I want you guys to guess too. So Ford,
yeah, I got rid of chat. Don't worry, I'm not looking at chat. Scout's honor. I'm an Eagle Scout.
Yeah, there's that little button on the so you can.
Yeah,
okay.
I collapsed it down.
Yeah, collapse chat. So Ford's gonna collapse chat. Chat, you guys can guess as well. I think I have the sound on. So Ford, unfortunately, you're gonna have to hear double because I don't have a way to feed you these. But here we go. So first sound. Ready?
Okay. Go for it. I'm waiting for the thing to stop doubling up.
I'll play it for you one more time.
Yoshi.
Okay.
Super Mario World Yoshi.
There you go. Okay, that's exactly.
Okay, cool.
Perfect. That is correct. And we will. I'm gonna mark these down.
That's what you want, right? Me to say where the sound is coming from or what the sound is.
Yep, and then the game. You can kind of be all over the place with it. I'm not deducting you if you just guess a bunch of different things. I didn't really think that far ahead, but okay. So the next one, a couple of these are gimmies, but I'm not intentionally trying to stump you, but I do have some more difficult ones. So we'll see. Here's the next one.
Okay. Oh man, why can I not think of this? Sorry, I am a couple seconds behind, so if I'm staring off into the distance, that's my chat. Metal Gear Solid, like a alert sound.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, being found in Metal Gear Solid. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, let me save this real quick. All right, that is correct. Okay, actually, you know what? I can even do this. Oh, there we go. Can we hear that?
I didn't hear anything. Oh wait, there we go.
Is that too loud?
No, that's fine. That's
Okay.
actually perfect.
All right, we're gonna play this game. I should have probably just turned that off, actually.
Okay, so
I'm gonna play it one more time. I'll give you this one more time because this is a song.
Okay.
Now, this one is I want the game, and if you can, I would like the level because it's very iconic.
So it's Super Mario 64.
All right.
As the game. The level is Bomb Battlefield?
Close enough. It's Bob. You were right. It's Bob Battlefield, but it's not Bomb. It's Bob. But yes, you got it.
Yeah.
I won't deduct for that one. That was good. It's the music boy gets the music questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next one.
Oh, Undertale, Sans.
Yes, nice. Very nice. I thought that one might stump you. There we go. Okay.
Well, so fun fact on why I got that. So the first time I heard it, I was like, "Is that just a glitched out Patrick?" And then I remembered, oh wait, that's how he made that sound, was with Patrick.
Oh, is it? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, from SpongeBob. Yeah, he took a Patrick sample essentially.
Jones even said Patrick starts stumbling his words. That's interesting.
Yep.
Wow, I did not even. So you learned something too. That's great. I love this. All right, so next one, you're gonna get this one instantly too. So far, clean sweep.
Clean sweep, baby.
Here we go.
Punch first. Ask questions while punching.
Vi, League of Legends.
Okay, nice. I wish I could get these to you in real time, but it's not too bad of a delay. All right, here's the next one. This one might be a toughie.
As a future thing that you want to do, what you could do, you could upload them to the Discord soundboard and then just play them off of the soundboard.
I would have to have Nitro because you can only do a couple, I think.
Oh, okay. Well,
But yeah, I could do something like that. That's a lot of work, though. I'm just playing these YouTube videos. I like this. This is just so easy.
Okay.
But anyway, all right, so here's the next one. Very iconic.
Donkey Kong Country, level complete. Boss
Nice,
complete,
let's
like
go.
that, yeah.
Okay, clean sweep so far. I'm super proud of you. All right, here we go. Next one. This next one's a gimme as well. This next one's a gimme as well. They get a little bit harder.
It is kind of crazy how I just if you would have told me, or if you would have asked me, hey, can you tell me what the Donkey Kong victory sounded like? No chance in hell I would have been able to
That's
tell
why
you.
this stuff is so special.
Hearing it, you're just like, oh,
It takes you back to that time.
There,
I know,
dude.
and that's why I love
digging
this.
in.
That is why I love this. All right, we'll move on to the next one. So that's why I love this because when I hear these things, I can even see them dancing and stuff. Like it's just embedded. Yeah, it transports you instantly. Exactly. So okay, here we go.
Pac-Man dying.
Gotcha. There we go. That is another one. We have 3 more. You're going for the clean sweep here. This one is definitely, you're going to lose a point on this one for sure because you might get the wrong game. But I tried so hard to help you out with this one. Okay, here we go.
So opening a chest, especially one of the special chests in Legend of Zelda, is the action.
Okay, so that's 2 points.
The game? So it's very specifically a singular game.
Yes, it is specifically from... Because, obviously that chest melody is throughout all of them. Mostly. But this is one specific... You got it! No way! Out of all the Zeldas... Let's go! Very nice job. Very, very nice. Okay.
All right, ready for the next one.
This one you should get as well, I'm hoping. Here we go. Give me a second. Let me skip, because I'm going to mute this real quick. I need to skip to a certain spot. About right here. Okay, here we go. 3, 2...
Oh,
I know that's in there.
it's in there. It definitely, it tickled my brain. Destiny 2. Or I guess Destiny. I don't know if you want franchise or specific game.
You were correct.
Okay. It's a fusion rifle. But which fusion rifle? Or can I just say fusion rifle firing? Or is it very much?
It's very specific. It's so specific that you will.
Telesto.
Oh my god! He got it! That is crazy! That is insane. And for the final one, this one is the one that I figured might stump you because I don't know how versed you are in this space. It is very old.
Oh, okay.
It is very old. It's not older than the oldest. I mean, you've heard Pac-Man dying, so it's not that old.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like classics, though.
This is old, so here we go. That one is also iconic. I'll play it again. You don't have to ask for a replay. Here we go. One more time.
Asteroids. Is it Dine? No, Dine's more of an exploding sound. And is there's like a special shot, like laser shot, something?
It's way more iconic than anything you're thinking of right now. I'll give you that. That's a freebie hint because this one is going to be the stumper. So far, you're at like an A+. I'll do it one more time. Yes, Iron Man, you can guess.
Okay, so it's definitely a space thing. So old space games. Asteroid. Am I allowed to think through my thoughts?
You can think through your thoughts.
Okay. Space game. So it's not asteroids then, because asteroids doesn't have like a and you said it wasn't asteroids, so the Galaga's too new. That's like old school.
I'll give you a free hint, another free hint.
No. Space Invaders. The little bomb.
No.
Fuck.
I'll give you one more small hint. It sounds so old because it's on a Game Boy.
Interesting.
It's one of the most popular games on a Game Boy.
Pokemon.
I'll only deduct one if you get it here.
Do I have? So I know it's a Pokemon sound. Do I have to guess the Pokemon?
Yes.
Fuck.
It's so iconic.
I mean, if it was Game Boy, that would have been yellow, and so I'm gonna say Pikachu.
Correct, it's Pikachu, but it could not be yellow because in yellow he goes Pikachu, but in red and blue he goes Brow. But yes.
Oh, interesting. Yellow had him say Pikachu?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, look at that. All right, not my cleanest last one, but hey, I got there.
Almost a clean sweep. I'll give you a point for that. It took us a while.
Third guess, yeah.
So we got. I mean, that's 28 out of a possible 30 points. Congratulations, my friend. You are the video game boy. Give it up for Ford.
I am the sound boy. I know sounds and music and things. Oh man, I would love to do this again. In fact, we are going to do this again. I love this. We're doing this again. I'm making the call.
Oh, 100% we're doing this again.
I want you to hit me with some of those like soundtracks and stuff.
I'll get you with some soundtracks. Some Grant Kirkhope. See if I can get.
Oh yeah, hit me with that good old Grant Kirkhope. Some Banjo-Kazooie levels.
Now the thing is you think you can hit? Because do I do one with levels? Can you hit levels?
I mean, hey, I got Bomb Battlefield.
Yeah, but that one is it's the first level. It's so iconic.
Yeah. It's so iconic. You would have asked me to name any of the other levels in that game. I wouldn't have been able to. So, I'm gonna say there's a good possibility I could. Not like I definitely would have clean sweep them like I did with a lot of these sounds. But I think I could name a lot of them, especially if you don't go too deep into the treasure.
I wouldn't go too deep.
But yeah, hit me with that, like I could recognize Click Clock Wood right now. Hit me with that Click Clock Wood, boom.
I would love for this to be inverted too, because I know a lot of old like 64 like classics levels. Like I could probably name almost every Mario 64 soundtrack and and quite a few Banjo ones, but I've only played Banjo once. So there's a couple that I could hit pretty well. And Donkey Kong Country, I know most of them.
Okay. Donkey Kong Country I could probably get a couple too. Yeah, we'll definitely invert this. This is definitely going to be a recurring thing, I think.
Very fun.
Very fun. Thank you so much for bringing that to me, my friend.
Thank you for knocking it out of the park. There's a couple that I thought might stump you. I thought maybe Sans, maybe Donkey Kong. You got them.
I'm in there, brother. I'm in there. I know the sounds.
Okay.
So
that's it for our quiz.
Well, that's it for our quiz. Don't worry, we'll definitely be coming back. Like I said, and actually, let me take a moment real quick. Hey guys, how you doing? Listening on Twitch, listening on YouTube, listening on podcast services, of which you are now on. Don't forget to check that out. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. As you're listening, give us some feedback. Let us know how you're liking Damage Check. What's working for you? What's not working for you? What's your favorite part of the week? What's your least favorite part of the week? Let us know. Because we definitely want to continue to grow this. Me and HP aren't going anywhere. He's one of my best friends right now, and I'm absolutely not going to let him go unless he tells me he needs to go, and then I'll let him be a free bird.
No, I'm codependent bird.
But yeah, I would love to get feedback from you guys on a lot of the stuff that we're trying out, just to know if it's working for you. And if it's working for you, we'll keep doing it. We'll keep on kind of integrating it in. So leave those comments in YouTube. I think on like Spotify and Apple, you can leave comments. How I read those, I'll find out. I will find out. But anyways, enough with that spiel. Back onto the news. We got a few more stories that we want to hit. These are some of the smaller ones, so these will be pretty quick hits. Next up, we got a little bit of a sad one, kind of continuing the trend from last year where tech and video games experienced a very large amount of layoffs. We are getting hit with the same thing. Twitch just laid off about 500 employees, and I'll actually even add on to this and say, Unity just laid off, I believe, about 1,800 employees, and a few other companies have started laying off people as well. The industry knowers, the people who know about the industry, warned us last year that it wasn't going to stop this year. It was probably going to continue into next year. So I'm not surprised, disappointed definitely, but I'm not surprised that we're kind of reconsolidating back down from the COVID days. But HP, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think about Twitch laying off 500 employees? Because you're the Twitch boy. I'm just a novice. You're the master.
I don't know a whole lot about it. I just know that, first off, it is sad. It's sad when anyone loses their job. But I think that we all know and have known for a while, if you're around Twitch at all, you know that, and it's confirmed recently by Dan Clancy that it's not profitable.
Yes.
And it hasn't been for a while, which is something that I don't understand because, and I've mentioned this to you before, I don't understand this. And the main reason I don't understand this, why it's not profitable, is... And I just don't understand money, like this side of money, because it's a lot more money, it's more than I could ever dream of, right? But Twitch is worth, or at least what they paid for it, what Amazon bought it for was almost $1 billion. It was like $980 million, I believe, or 930. It was something way up there. Amazon saw something, and Amazon, I mean, they might make dumb moves and they can probably get away with it because they have so much money. But does Amazon really make dumb moves? I mean, $1 billion dumb move? Now, obviously, Elon Musk bought Twitter and has completely tried to, shoehorn himself into this, I'm the guy, but no one cares, and Twitter's never really been that good anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, Elon made a dumb move, but I don't feel like Amazon made a dumb move. What did they say? What was Twitch profitable before? Or are they just putting too much into Twitch? Is it because now everybody wants a 1080p stream and we're not getting those 360p's anymore? I don't get it. Because you mentioned that a lot of people are now streaming because they want that as an easy job or something. But what I don't understand is they still had these little streams before. I understand that now we have thousands of people streaming to 0 people. Sure. But even then, it still has to deal with your bandwidth, right? Am I wrong in that? I just don't understand how it couldn't be profitable because they're taking half of our money already anyway. All of these low streamers that did get affiliate quickly, first off, they could change some things, but in general, they're taking half of the affiliates' money and 30% of the of most partners' money. Where's it going? Is it really? They're taking half of our money to server maintenance? I mean, they got to make billions.
It's an interesting thing. So I after we talked off podcast a little bit about this, and I decided to go do a little bit of research on it. And I didn't uncover any like huge nuggets and stuff. But it did give me kind of a reminder about loss leaders. And I think that's a little bit of what Twitch is right now. I don't think it's necessarily what Amazon probably wants it to be, but I think that the benefit that they get from Twitch from an R&D perspective, and also just from a data perspective, is pretty valuable, even if it's not necessarily money, because they can feed that into Amazon being the conglomerate that it is. All the data that's on Twitch, everything they get from it, from what tags are being used the most. Okay, is that the audience we want to go for?
What game is popular, etc.
What game is popular right now? Okay, we can use that to have our game studios go make those types of games. What, you know, a lot of that data is extremely valuable. You're basically the hub for a gaming culture that is just consistently feeding you data on what that gaming culture wants. And that's where I think a lot of that value comes from. I'm sure Amazon definitely would want Twitch to make money. But I think they're probably also generally okay with it being a little bit of a loss leader right now for that data. I do think that there probably comes a day of reckoning where it is going to be like, okay, how are we actually going to start making money off of this thing? Or at least mitigate the amount of money that they're losing off of it. And I think that'll be very interesting to see how they approach that. I don't know enough about Twitch to know how they would approach that. But that was kind of what I pulled up as I was researching, is that the amount of data that they're getting off of Twitch is really what I think the purchase is for. You know, it's just tons and tons of data about a culture that you can essentially market to.
Do you think that that was their initial point? Because I mean, they had to have seen something in Twitch to buy it to Snap buy it for. I mean, at least in the public eye, Snap buy it for $1 billion.
I think so. I'm sure data played a part in it, where they're like, oh, we can get a lot of cool data off this and we can use that for like our other avenues and everything like that. But I do think that Twitch was likely bought originally to be a YouTube competitor. And much like YouTube, they realized, oh, this doesn't really make as much money as we actually kind of thought. YouTube has been notorious for not really making a ton of money either. I think they are profitable, but it's far from Google's most profitable venture, despite it being probably their most popular product, other than Google itself, the search engine. And that's where I think this turned into a data thing. It's the same reason why, like, we haven't really seen a YouTube competitor, because anybody who's gotten into trying to be a YouTube competitor pretty early on realizes, oh, we're not going to make money off of this, at least not for an extremely long amount of time. And so when they bought Twitch, they probably were hoping they would get a little bit of a head start on that. Amazon tends to do that, where they try to buy people and hope that they can get a head start. And not have to do the years of grunt work. But the reality is the years of grunt work always has to happen. No matter if you bought a company that was super ahead of the game, the years of grunt work are still ahead of you. You're going to have to learn how to integrate all that kind of stuff. And I think that's, granted, they bought them like nearly 10 years ago or something like that at this point. Yeah, 2014, they got acquired. So that's why I do think the age of reckoning is probably coming, and it's probably coming within the next 5 years, where they're going to start saying, hey, we have to start figuring out how this is going to make money. We have to figure out how we're going to pivot Twitch, and we have to figure out what is Twitch actually going to become. Because the other thing that's happening, I feel like, is the competitors are starting to catch up to Twitch, because they're realizing that there's kind of blood in the water, right? There's people are upset with Twitch, and people are ready to go to other services. Not in mass, obviously. Like, I'm not saying that like Twitch is like falling apart or anything like that, but there are people that are, like, hey, I'm going to go to YouTube. And so Twitch said, oh, well, we still kind of want you here also, so you can stream on YouTube and Twitch. Kick is growing. I don't know how Kick makes any money. I don't know anything about Kick.
It's scummy. They're gambling.
Yeah, exactly.
Going back to our GACHA discussion.
But like those competitors are rising up. And so I think that is going to cause Amazon and Twitch to eventually say, we got to figure out how we are going to actually make money off of this thing. And part of that was probably laying off those 500 people. At the end of the day, they probably looked at how much are we paying these people? How much profit are we getting? Okay, we have to scale down. And it always sucks when people loses their jobs. But I'm sure they looked at the numbers and were like, for us to kind of reach more of a middle ground, we have to let these people go.
That's fair.
So
I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. I don't know where we go from here. I don't know. I mean, I am a never doomsdayer Twitcher. Like, I literally watch. I used to watch Harris Heller regularly when I was trying to grow on Twitch, and I'm still trying to grow on Twitch. But I used to watch him all the time until I realized that his pattern stays the same. He is just a guy who makes videos to help people, and then all the while helping people achieve their streamer dreams, he shits on it by saying, Twitch is going to die. Don't use Twitch. Twitch is going to die every week. And he goes, YouTube is better. But then Twitch makes a small change and he goes, Twitch is making a step in the right direction. And then the next week goes, well, that right direction was the wrong direction. They're dying. It's like, are you pulling our dreams up or are you crushing them? What is happening? Like, I don't know what's going on. I can't ever read the guy. I know that the game is ever changing. I'm not trying to be a hater. I got to the point where I was just kind of fed up with the Twitch is dying, Twitch is not dying, Twitch is dying. They're not dying. They're not profitable. They're not going anywhere. We need these types of services on the internet. I feel like streaming is necessary. I don't think it's like a necessity, like technically, but I think that we need things like, I mean, can you imagine an internet without YouTube? Like, obviously there'd be another type of like Vimeo or whatever, there'd be something else, but I can't imagine an internet without a video streaming service, period. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, the doomsday will always happen. I mean, like, pulling it into the games we play, like there's always like Bungie, Destiny 2 doomsdayers. And I've learned to just stop engaging with a lot of that stuff because it's always kind of the same thing. It's like, oh, Bungie's dying, Bungie's doing great. Bungie's dying, Bungie's doing great. And I've just learned to just enjoy whatever it is that I enjoy about that thing without having to have all the doomsday and stuff. And I do think there's like some pragmaticism, for that person you were talking about, I can't remember the name, but who you were talking about, there's some pragmaticism for him to basically be like, hey, like, don't put all your eggs into the Twitch basket. But I'm hoping that most people realize, I mean, they probably don't, but I'm hoping that most people realize, don't put all your eggs into one basket, regardless of anything. Because if that basket falls apart, you're now stuck with a bunch of eggs broken on the floor. Not a fun time. And, I think it's the same thing where, like, if you're a content creator for Destiny, don't put all your eggs into the Destiny basket. Your Destiny basket's good. Keep doing Destiny. If it's working for you, keep doing Destiny. But after you've grown Destiny to the point that you wanted to kind of be at or where you're comfortable with, then move on to the next thing and kind of have a second splinter that you're slowly going to grow. You'll still pay attention to Destiny, but grow that second splinter. And then once that's up there, grow that next splinter and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of people could use some of that pragmaticism of like, don't stop. Just because you reached a goal, don't stop. You got to keep going.
Yeah, I don't think that that's what Harris is technically saying. I mean, he is to a degree, but he's also, he's a content creator. He's got to make his money off of baiting us.
Got to make that money. Yep.
So,
rage bait, baby.
Yeah. So
other than the Twitch layoffs, we also have a couple of smaller things. Hogwarts Legacy hit 22 million sales last year in 2023.
Congratulations. So that is a feat.
Thank God, there's other games that are able to rival Call of Duty. I didn't play Hogwarts Legacy. I don't really care about
I didn't play it either.
Yeah, I don't really care about the Harry Potter franchise all that much. But I'm just glad to see that other games are now starting to experience a lot of that success. That a lot of these other big games.
Super Saiyan Jones mentioned, especially with it being boycotted, that's crazy. I would agree with that, except for the fact that I feel like the boycott almost gave it more notoriety.
Well, also,
no publicity is bad publicity. That's kind of what we talked about earlier.
Let me say this up front. I don't agree with J.K. Rowling.
Oh, for sure.
All that kind of just to get that out of the
ether, no, we don't. Yeah,
this doesn't get clipped out as like, oh, these guys are like pro blah. Absolutely not. What I will say though is that the boycott is a lot of that like terminally onlineness. You guys got to realize Harry Potter is so much bigger than what online will like make you believe. Those movies and those books sell like crazy. People don't pay attention to J.K. Rowling. They probably barely even know who she is. And they just like Harry Potter. They want to go be wizards in Hogwarts Legacy. So the boycott was never going to do much.
That's my thing is like with a lot of these like social issues with these. Now, of course, I want to be on the right side of history always, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to look into every artist and every writer and every voice actor and everybody's history to know who they hate and who they don't hate, to see if I'm allowed to support them or not. Because I'm sure a lot of the voice actors that I look up to probably have some crazy opinions and worldviews, but I don't have time to research every 500 people that I'm a fan of, all their history and their background before I dive into what their art. I separate the art from the artist always.
Yeah. Yep. Could not agree more.
She's on the wrong side of history. We're on the right. That's fine.
Yep. And eventually history will deem it so. So, but regardless, I'm happy for at least for the team, Avalanche Studios, I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Avalanche Studios, very excited for them to have such a success with that game. Super excited for what they do next, whether it's Harry Potter or not.
Yep. Great job, guys.
I'm very excited to see how that goes. Next up, HBO cast Abby for The Last of Us Season 2.
I'm gonna let you take this one because the only thing that I have to say about this is that I actually have a question for you to start this off.
Sure.
Is this Last of Us? Excuse me. I've never played the games. I've only seen the show, and the first season, is that the end of the game or is it not?
Yes. Yeah, that is.
So season 2 is the second game.
Yes, though I do wonder. So there's a pretty large gap between between the first game and the second game. I do wonder if season 2 is going to be in that gap, or if they're going to explore some of that gap. Because I think outside of a video game medium, I don't know if the way that they do the storytelling in part 2 will work in the television medium as well. I'm sure they could probably finagle something, but I do think that leading up to some of the events in part 2, I think it would be good to have maybe at least an episode or two kind of between that period to kind of give some context and some build up for some stuff. So I do wonder how much of season 2 is going to be part 2. And also I'd be willing to bet that the second game gets broken up into multiple seasons. The first game is definitely a very kind of like cut and dry kind of tale. Part 2, not as cut and dry. There's like a lot of pieces kind of moving in that game. It is a longer game as well. I think it's about 10 to 15 hours longer than the first game. So like there's a lot more happening there. So I do wonder if some of that gets broken up between seasons. So
maybe it could be I was going to say maybe it'd be break it up into 2 seasons.
Yeah, break it up into 2 seasons. I would honestly prefer that because if they try to shove all of part 2 into a single season, I don't know how well that's going to work. That's going to be a lot. That's going to be a lot of stuff happening and a lot of lifting that's going to have to happen in these episodes. And I would rather get
whoever is working on this show, I fully believe that they'll do a fantastic job because I can't express, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, I cried on every single episode and every episode moved me. I mean, I think it was that 3rd or 4th episode in the house. I think that could be a standalone movie. They did such a phenomenal job. So I trust this studio.
Yeah,
I really do.
I'm very, very, very interested in how the world reacts to Last of Us Part 2 and its adaptation into Last of Us Season 2. I think it's going to be an interesting look at the way society views itself right now. There's Last of Us Part 2. I love the game. But it's also a game that I hate in a lot of ways. Because not necessarily like hate as in like, oh, this game sucks or anything like that, but because of the things that happens in it, I think that I don't know if people are ready for that. I don't know if people are ready for that mirror. And I think the game itself, when it came out, was an example of that, where I don't think people were ready to look into the mirror like that. And I'm interested to see if in a television format, if it's going to be willing
like to, self-reflection, literal mirror, or like, are we talking about like
like a self-reflection thing and kind of a put it this way. When Last of Us Part 2 came out, Neil Druckmann, the creator of Last of Us, very much I'm paraphrasing the quote, but he essentially said Last of Us Part 1, or Last of Us at the time, is a game about what would you do for love, right? Like what are the not necessarily love like romantic love, but like what would you do for something that you love, essentially, right? Like that was
they touch on so much more too, which is crazy, but yeah,
exactly. And so but it all kind of ties around like a central theme of like what are people willing to do for the ones that they love, and everything like that. Part 2 does an interesting thing, and he even says this, once again, paraphrasing the quote. Part 2 is about what would you do for someone you hate? And I think that's going to drive a lot of interesting conversation around how we perpetuate a lot of that stuff in our world. And so I'm very, very interested to see how people react to Last of Us Part 2. I love the game. It's one of my favorite games of all time. It's very divisive, and I think that is inherent of being something that I do consider art. I consider Last of Us Part 2 a work of art. And love it or hate it, it's still a work of art. And I think the fact that it is divisive is proof of that. So the last thing I'll say on them casting Abby, God protect that woman. I mean, if the reaction in the show is anything like the reaction with the game, I do not envy playing that part.
She a hated character.
Oh, HP.
I know that people do bring that out of the screen, though. Isn't that weird? Why do people do that? I've actually heard a lot of things.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I legitimately think that for when that's airing, she should probably have like a bodyguard or group of bodyguards or something like that as she's going about. I'm just saying, man, like the way people reacted with part 2. And that's a smaller sample size than who's going to digest it on HBO. And so I'm like, I don't know, guys. Make sure. I don't know if they're going to. One thing they can do is it similar to Super Saiyan Jones in chat? Is it similar to the hate of Joffrey Baratheon? I think it's worse. And so I think it's going to be very interesting to see how. I think it'll be interesting.
What is wrong with people though? Why are we doing this off screen? Who cares? It's an actor. It's a movie. It's a show. Who cares?
Yeah, I know. Trust me. I know. I'm just saying. I'm putting it out there. I'm being the realist.
Like, do people think that this stuff is real? What is wrong with them?
I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. I mean, but I definitely am interested to see how they portray Abby in the game, and I'm interested to see, once again, kind of that middle ground. I think if we get a couple of episodes between the events of part 1 and part 2 that kind of build up to some of those events, I think that it will not be as egregious. And so I'm hoping that's what they do because
I'm hoping that people will get it through their skull that fantasy is fantasy. Jesus Christ.
I mean, yes, that too.
That's insane.
That too. I mean, it's a very powerful game. It's a very powerful story that does elicit a lot of emotions. Granted, I don't think.
Yeah, but you can't take it out of the screen.
Yeah, not taking it necessarily out of the screen. But I do think it's going to prompt a lot of dialogue around.
That's fine. And I love that.
But I don't know. I'm scared that dialogue is going to get really hateful really quick.
Yeah, probably. That's typically the internet.
Anyway, yeah, exactly. Anyways, internet's going to do what's going to do. But I'm very excited for season 2. And I'm excited to see kind of what, they did a lot of great changes, I feel like, in part 1. I'm excited to see what changes they decide to make in part 2 to kind of like make everything fit together a little bit more.
Okay.
And then the final news topic that we got, we'll kind of breeze through this one because we're already coming up on that 2 hour. No, we're already past that 2 hour mark. So Microsoft is rumored to be bringing some of their exclusives to other consoles. This is specifically in reference to a rumor that's been going around that Hi-Fi Rush, the hit Xbox game from last year. Don't forget, guys, Hi-Fi Rush, indie game. All right, indie game according to some people on the internet. They are supposedly going to be bringing that to other consoles, specifically Switch and PS4 was the original rumor, and that has kind of been starting to be believed a little bit more because substantiated, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It's been substantiated because I believe it was the Taiwanese rating board rated the game for PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. So this is probably an imminent thing, probably going to happen relatively soon. And this caused a whole lot of hullabaloo with a lot of the console warriors about exclusives and about, Microsoft and why are you giving our exclusive games to other people? And I just thought it'd be an interesting conversation. Not necessarily the console warrior part. I'm not about all that stuff. But I do think it's an interesting conversation because I think I've said it on the podcast before. I think Microsoft is one of the most forward-thinking as far as business strategy
I would agree
on
with
their
that.
games right now, where they kind of understand where the industry is going. And they're kind of trying to do that now instead of waiting.
Yeah, they're paving the way for sure.
They're paving the way, and I think bringing Hi-Fi Rush to other consoles is the perfect example of that, because we talked about with like Spider-Man, the cost to make Spider-Man was huge, and you're only selling that to one console. You sure you don't want to pop that over to another console?
That's a really good point.
Couple million,
because we did talk about that on the podcast. You mentioned 300 something million to make it, and they barely made it back or whatever. You said you'd be surprised if they even did make it back or whatever. But like, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like exclusives are I'm of the opinion that exclusives kind of need to go, or at least wholesale exclusives, where it's like, this is only ever going to be on this one place. For one, I think every game should basically be on on console of choosing and PC. It should come out on PC. That should be kind of your middle ground. But even then, 6 months later, a year later, just release the damn thing on the other console. Make your money. Why are we locking these? And I don't get what a lot of these people's opinions were like, oh no, lock it down. Like, I only want it for me. It's like, no, I want everybody to play Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is awesome.
That's what I never understood about that, where they're like, oh, I'm a PlayStation guy. It's like, well, shouldn't you want everyone to want your game that you like so much?
Yeah, exactly. I want everybody to be able to play The Last of Us. Do you know how much money The Last of Us would make if they put it on Xbox? I mean, obviously they've already made tons of money, but that's another avenue that you can be like, here's your thing. Now, granted, I know that they're trying to, Sony, I feel like is still kind of in the hardware race a little bit more. Whereas from my perspective, at least, it feels like Microsoft is almost trying to get out of the hardware race. Like, they're still going to have hardware, but it doesn't seem like that's kind of their main thing now. They're just like, hey, play the games wherever you want. Play them on your phone with cloud gaming. Play them on PC with Xbox Game Pass. Play it on, if you don't want to build a PC, that's fine. We have hardware options.
I knew I liked you. I like this dialogue because these are things that are right in front of my face, but I don't think about them. And I love that because they are putting their best foot forward. I love this. I didn't even think about them kind of being this pioneer in this space, but they are. They want you to experience their game. So this is a better topic than I thought it was going to be. I already love this. And with Super Saiyan Jones, like, I agree, like you said, exclusivities need to go. Does nothing but hurt the gamer. That's kind of what we already touched on. And Nintendo, for example, I mean, just Pokemon alone. Put Pokemon Scarlet and Violet up on Steam and see that it doesn't break records tomorrow.
Yeah, just absolutely dominate. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Nintendo's another one that I feel like is still in that hardware race. But I think that, once again, Microsoft is looking 10 years in the future. And they're looking and seeing the hardware race is going to end, guys. Eventually, we're going to get to a point where we're not trying to sell hardware. We're going back to really trying to sell software. But
that's the problem with Nintendo. They're not trying to sell hardware or software. They're trying to sell the experience with software, a software umbrella. So they're like, oh, we can save everything by just making it crazy and fun. Like, you guys remember Mario Kart, right? Well, now you can play Mario Kart in the house. Like, who cares, bro? Just put Mario Kart 8 on Steam so we can play with our boys.
Interesting. So you think that,
well, look at the last few consoles. You got the Wii, the Wii U, and the Switch. These are all these crazy maneuverability things, and Xbox and PlayStation got into it in the PS3 and Xbox 360 era with Kinect, and then they were like, yeah, this is kind of like in tandem with our console, but it's not our console. Like, if you think of Xbox, you don't think of Kinect. If you think of PlayStation, you don't think of 6-axis movement. You don't care about that. Why would you? And so the Nintendo is like, hey, Switch, clickety clackety click click. That's their whole advertisement. That's their whole identity, as being different and crazy. They don't care about hardware either. If they cared about hardware, they wouldn't care about it being mobile, or they wouldn't have Zelda in 60 frames or whatever, whatever it's in 30 frames. Everybody bitches about it being in 30 frames or whatever.
That's interesting. I've never thought of it that way, that they're selling the experience versus they're selling you the Nintendo experience.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which I have always hated, because I am a consumer. You know me. I'm the Nintendo boy. I love Nintendo. And whenever they first sold the Wii, that's when I realized I am not the Nintendo boy they want me to be, because they want me to get up and move and throw my sword, and I hated it. The moment I waited in line, and this is a real story. I waited in line for the Nintendo Wii for 12 hours. And in the cold. It was like November. It was freezing cold. I have pictures from it still. Maybe I'll share them sometime on Damage Tech Twitter or something. Go follow us on Twitter. But so I think that, like, whenever I first picked it up, I'm in my room and I'm like, oh, you got I can't remember what the game was called, but it's some samurai game where you have a gun and you have a sword.
Red Steel, baby.
Red Steel. And I'm like, this is so cool. And then after I realized it's not that cool. It's not that cool. And then they did the thing that I didn't want. We transitioned over to the Wii U. First off, shitty console, sold like crap, whatever. They transition over to the Wii U, and I'm the Nintendo boy, and guess what? I'm even more so, I'm the Star Fox boy. I love Star Fox. Give me a rail shooter all day. That's what I want. They give me a pretty, it's been like 20 years. They give me a decent Star Fox game, but they force me to use motion controls. Hey, guess what, Nintendo? We all aren't 5 years old. I'm allowed to sit still and play video games. You cannot turn motion controls off. I tried, and it's very annoying. So they are trying to sell you this experience. They want you to get up and move.
I'm getting a lot of like new HP lore that is very contrary to my initial impressions of HP lore. So this is great.
My thing is with it though is like, yes, it is an experience and it is fun. It is fun to play Mario Party and shake up a can and it looks like this, you know, like that's fun. Sure, that's great. But at the end of the day, whenever you're just trying to relax in your home, you don't want to move, you know? Games are meant to be like, you turn on the, you grab a beer, you grab some edibles or whatever, and you kick back in your chair and you're just sitting there playing The Legend of Zelda. I don't want to have to get up and dance while I do it.
I just want you to know, I saw you do it on my screen, but then I looked at the live and I watched you do the can motion and lost it, dude. Oh my God.
But it's true though. So they are trying to sell me this experience, but the thing is they don't know because to them, these executives, they're playing games for what, 30 minutes a week?
Sure, yeah.
So they're having fun for 30 minutes. Us gamers are relaxing after a long day's work, so we want to come home and play a game and enjoy it. But we can't enjoy it if we're just jumping around in circles and stuff. I can go on forever about this, and I'm going in circles already about it, but that's just my take on it. They are selling the experience, but with that experience, you're right, it does come hardware, because they have to make hardware that can hold that experience. Like, you got to have a Switch that's being able to be portable. I mean, I still think the Switch is very impressive, but it's not a hardware race in terms of graphics, or else, I mean, because if that's the case, they're losing.
Yeah, it's not a hardware race, but they're still in the hardware game. Is the main thing. Yeah. And once again, I don't think Microsoft is going to leave the hardware game. I think Microsoft will always be coming out with new Xboxes, but that's not going to be their primary drive. You know, a lot of times with these consoles, the software is to sell more of the hardware, to build up that install base. But Microsoft has done the smart thing where they're just like, let's just go get another install base. Like, we can have Xbox still, but like, let's go to Switch and get an install base there. Let's go to PlayStation and get an install base there. Let's go to PC and, you know, so on and so forth. So I have a question for you though about the Switch though, because I do feel like the Switch is kind of the least weird Nintendo console we've gotten in a while. I mean, obviously, like you said, the clickety clackety bing bang bops or whatever. You know, there's all that, but do you feel like if the next console is just a Super Switch, which is just a more powerful Switch, sure, it'll probably have like some new additional weird feature that they're going to sell in like 3 games and then forget about. But do you feel like they are moving towards being more so in the hardware race? Maybe not like competing, obviously, because they're never going to come out with a PlayStation 5 competitor or anything like that. But do you feel like it's going to become less about the experience? Do you think they're shifting away from being the experience console and now trying to be more be more software and hardware?
No, I think ultimately, despite experience, because like, you know, what was that called? Where they took the cardboard and you could like make a backpack out of it. Yeah. So that, as far as I know, didn't do so well.
Okay.
Who cares about it? And at least for me, it's a cool concept. If I was a kid, I would love that. So I'm sure there are some families out there that love it, but I just don't get down with it. So I think that they're selling this experience. They're selling you the hardware and the experience because of the software. Like if Zelda was on and Mario was on Steam, I wouldn't even purchase a Super Switch or whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? So they still want their cake and eat it too, which is weird because they would make so much more money if they didn't. But I think that they want to be in that game.
I think that's why your whole thing about the experience makes a lot more sense, because I've always said the same thing. It's like, put it on PC, at least you're going to make a ton of money, but they don't have control of the experience on PC. And so that's why I think your whole point about them being, they're selling the experience. I think that now kind of clicks in my head more of like why they haven't done this yet.
I genuinely think if you want to go back to the AI thing, I think that how you said, if people are behind in the times, they're just going to get rolled over. I kind of think that that's what's happening to Nintendo, except for they're not getting rolled over because their games are so good. They have Mario, they have Zelda, they have Pikmin, and they have Splatoon. They don't need anything else. And Pokemon, Pokemon, for God's sake, is the biggest franchise in the world. So the fact that they have those 5 franchises, and they're probably the 5 of those, out of 5 of those, 3 of those are probably in the top echelon of franchises, and especially in gaming, then what do they need to sell it anywhere else? At least it's in their mind. So they're technically behind, like you would say the AI thing. They're sitting back and they're just watching things happen. But they're not actually behind because they keep selling 19 million copies of Zelda. They're selling 30 million copies of Pokemon. You know what I mean? So why would they? But the thing is I think that they're so protective of their IPs. I mean, that's why they shut down these streamers. That's why they shut down these ROM hacks and stuff like that. Like, they don't want people to play their games that are 40 years old, but no one's going to buy them. Like, yes, some people, if you put them available on the shop, they will buy them. But like, you're not making Grand Poo World 3. You're not making these ROM hacks that people want to play. So just let people have it on PC. You'll get all of your money, and then they'll also be able to hack it or something and have fun with it. Mod support. But they don't want to be that. They want to be in the hardware game for some reason.
Or in the experience game, like you said. I'm gonna think about that more, the whole experience thing, because I think that does kind of put into perspective some of the weird decisions that Nintendo has made over, I mean, honestly, like the past decade, you could probably say.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm gonna think about that more. I mean,
it's just a weird thing because they doubled down. So you got like the Wii was the movement. The Wii U was the screen with the movement, and bad title, like, because people didn't even know it was a different console. Like, some people thought you just got the screen and that was it. It's like, no, it's a whole new console.
Yeah.
But and that's probably why the marketing was so bad for it. But then they doubled down on it with the Switch, and they were like, it's all mobile. And it's all moving. It's all They took the Wii and the Wii U and they combined it together and said, it's all mobile, it's all moving. And it's like,
play games literally anywhere but your TV.
Right. Well, you can play it. That's all I play it on. I don't ever move it anywhere. I hate playing it.
Same. I'm TV gamer.
Yeah. And that's kind of my point too, is like, you play Zelda, you don't have to use motion controls. The thing is with like Mario Odyssey, you don't have to use motion controls, but if you want to speedrun it, you better, because you have to do the little shaky things, and that makes you go faster because you can roll as a ball. But like, why? Can't that just be a button? Why can't that just be a button?
I'm gonna think about this Nintendo experience thing more.
That's all I have to say about that anyway.
I'm gonna take that and try to like connect it into like some of the weird Nintendo decisions they've made and see if that makes sense. But anyways, yeah. So Microsoft bringing their games to other consoles, I think it's great. I think it's what more people need to do, and also it's gonna make we talked about before with Spider-Man, kind of looping it back around, where it's like, hey, games are getting too expensive to make, and it's like, if you started releasing them other places, it wouldn't be too expensive to make anymore, because you'd make a whole lot more money. You'd have a whole nother avenue of revenue. So hopefully more people follow suit. They probably won't. Microsoft's ahead of the game. They're killing it.
Yeah,
they're probably going to be the gaming overlords in like 10 years. But that is all the news we got for today. And I think that's all we got for today. You got anything else for me?
No, but I will maybe next week you prepare a quiz for me and we'll just alternate, maybe something like that.
Yeah, well, we'll start doing games and stuff. Once again, I'm begging you guys, if you're still here, if you're still listening, go to YouTube, subscribe for one. Damage check, SEO on point.
Yeah, all you have to do is type in damage check. You will find us.
Go to YouTube, hit that little subscribe button. Maybe hit the bell if you're feeling spicy. I hear the bell's really important. I don't know why, but I hear the bell's really important.
It's popular because they they get the notification immediately.
Yeah. You want to know immediately when you can see our faces next, so definitely hit the bell.
I have one little thing. I want to know. I want some feedback, whether it's now or whether it's on the YouTube. How was the switching? Did we like that? Was it engaging enough for the video? For the listeners, sorry you don't get to see it. But if you want to see it, go to YouTube and type in Damage Check. But I want to know.
Damage Check. Leave a comment. Tell us your favorite color. Tell us your favorite Nintendo experience. You know, I don't know. Tell me something. I don't know. I need something. But yeah, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter. Definitely check us out on those avenues. You can also find HP, Spotify, all the audio things. As far as individually, HP, you can of course find here at Heretic Plays on Twitch. You can also find him on the YouTubes as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You want to know when you can see that cute face again. Look at that. Wait, hold on. Is it this way? That way? I don't know. One of the ways. He's there. You want to see when you can see that cute face again. You can also check me out on Twitch and YouTube at Fjord. I'm currently going through all the Final Fantasy games, and I think we're going to mix in a little bit of Yakuza, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
And other games, Sea of Stars. I'd love to see your year-end review for Sea of Stars.
Yeah, Sea of Stars. Maybe I'll mess around and do a little video. Did I record any footage for Sea of Stars? No. Will I figure that out? I don't know. Maybe. But, you know, why don't you subscribe and see what's happening? And of course, go see what HP's got going on. He's got Nintendo 64 stuff. He's got League of Legends champions. He's got shorts. He's got everything. He's who I aspire to be. So
stop it. Thank you, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. And until next time, keep gaming. Keep being amazing.
Love you guys. See ya.
Love you guys.